Hello, welcome back. Alright, I'll dive right into it. I'll give you a quick demonstration of everything together. Alright, so gives you a bit of an idea what kind of style this is going for. This is normally where I tend to lean to, no matter what the BPM is. I don't know why. It's probably the choices I make throughout the whole track. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. I use Kick 2 in specific from Sonic Academy. Fortunately, it's not free, um, but I'll give you a few links to some good other free ones that will be very helpful for this video. Our spawn, you can get it when you type in, for example, spawn and MS Exoscope from Smart Electronics. If you Google this, you can also find it, and I'll probably put the links down below, so don't worry about it. Now, the reason why I have this because it gives a good presentation of the wave shape, and this one gives a nice overview of the spectrum. Later we'll use this one, but for the kick and bass this is not important because that's more related to stereo field, and you want this to be dead center. Not all the way, but especially the bottom of it, and the rest, we'll get to that later. So I made this cake in D sharp. Now, the first things you will notice is that I don't have anything on it. I don't have any clicks, I don't have any compressor working, I don't have any drive, no distortion, no EQ. I don't need any of that. I just want a simple sine wave. All the processing that we're going to do, I want to keep a hand over, and I especially don't want to work with it when I'm still starting it up. Very crucial because you can mud this up really quickly, and it's a step-by-step process that if you try to skip a step here and there and make it quicker, you'll probably make things a bit more complicated for yourself down the road, so keep a notice on this. Alright, so we'll start with D sharp. The frequency is 4.9 now, you can read it here, and it stays for that for like a millisecond. The complete length of this you can adjust here, and it's 176 milliseconds right now. If I solo this, you can see it right there, and I measured this length by basically having the kick and bass play together, and then I can see them together in this plugin. Now this is very handy because, oh wait, let me get a low one. There it is. As you can see, here's where the bass start, and I don't want the kick to play all the way through, so I have to cut it to length basically to make sure that the overlap with the bass, the first bass note, will be controlled and will not just be left unattended. If you do this, then this is where your phasing will start. You can work with a kick tail that's all the way to the end. That's no problem, but you do have to keep in mind that if you do this, it needs to be really in phase, else you're gonna get problems. This plugin, to get it like so steady, by the way, really quickly, you basically have a time knob here. It's very sensitive to get you in the ballpark for 140-ish music, 34. For higher, it's like 180, it's like 44. Everything's between 34 and 44. And you try to get it at the right time, that it either goes to go backwards or forward, but stays right centered. And with a bit of fiddling you can get this. You can click here and see the exact samples if you want. and then click on sync redraw, and then it will redraw it rather than refresh it. Uh, yeah, basically that's it. So you can use it. So back to the kick. To keep it in phase with the bass needs to be in D sharp. Now, obviously, you don't want to be the bass only be in B sharp. That's a bit boring. So, but if you work within a certain scale, harmonic scale of playing the piano, that it sounds all together. If you make sure this is solid, in general, it will work with the rest of the bass. So you don't have to worry too much about that, and you don't have to fiddle about getting everything in tune, because, as I mentioned in the previous video, it will all be multitudes of each other, and this will work and sound okay. So this is a very important part, that last part stays steady at D sharp, which is located right on 39 hertz. And you can see this here. That last area here is just all same frequency. And now, why is there a little dip in volume here? When you try to make this, you basically don't want to be lingering too long between 4 or 5,000 and your mid to low mid to like low. This is because this adds a lot of muddiness, and it makes your kick sometimes a bit too present in areas that you don't really want it to sit in, because putting a song together is putting like a puzzle together, and everything has its own place. So if one piece overlaps the rest, the other pieces won't fit in that properly anymore. So as you, the craftsman, have to make sure that you make all the shapes exactly fit in, that they don't take away from each other, but they add. So this is a bit tricky, but this is the reason why I dive down all the way quite quickly to 632, which is also in D, and then again to another D, 156. You don't have to always be exactly in the same key, but it's a good guide rule to basically stay in the same scale, or even the same key, because it just makes your life so much easier. And the differences between the cakes, it's not a dramatic change to have it a little bit, but please do this all by ear. Don't let you be guided by numbers. But this is a good guide, right? I normally don't bend this too much, because I'm doing it right now, and I'm probably putting it out of phase right now. So this is a bit more complicated, but I notice kicks that just have like a steady slope down the frequencies sound more natural rather than a bit unnatural. It sounds a bit more pleasing to the ear. Here in the amp, which is amplitude, which is the volume, pretty easy. I'm pretty sure most of you will know. Again, I made a big dip, which you can see right here, in the back one. I made a big dip. Sorry. I made a big dip because, again, this is just frequencies that I don't really want. I just want the high frequencies. And this part of the kick they call the transient. And the transient is basically the first initial powerful blast of sound. So you have to imagine a drummer. If he hits the pelv or skin of the drum, it will, obviously reverberate. But it's also the wooden stick or whatever stick you have hitting that pelvis, which gives an initial burst of noise. Well, in this case, it's normally always louder than the bouncing of the skin. So we're trying to recreate that a little bit, and it's a good trick in general to have that transient, so it sticks out of the rest. That makes the rest seem much louder, because your ear basically picks that little part, and it's like, oh, that sound is so loud, and then kind of imagines the rest to be that loud, while in reality, it is not. So that's very handy because then you have a lot of space left on the with the rest because it's not as loud. So you can add a little bit more, you know. Um, so if you're being busy with this specific program, don't worry about what these lengths are with this because it's not accurate to uh, like if I change something here that it will move here. It could be that I'm working here and then you can see it here. It moves here. So please focus on the back one because you kind of want to have a dip down here, and then when the big waves start coming, you kind of want to have that full volume again. So that when the bass comes, it evens out to a nice loud volume because with the kick, it's gonna be basically our main foundation for the trick. It's gonna be the loudest thing. So everything I'm gonna work around that. So this needs to be solid, and this needs to be quite loud at this spot and this spot as loud as I can. And then later we're gonna change it a little bit to even that out and balance it a bit better. But this is basically your main thing. You have to see this. If you have a room, it's basically the floor. With the bass, it's your foundation. It's where everything is built on, and it basically, yeah, as I say, it's the foundation. And then basically you have like your drums and your percussion and your snare and all that stuff, and those are the walls. They're also steady throughout. You don't want to mess too much with the volume, except for breaks and stuff. You don't really want to mess too much with it going up and down. It needs to be solid, especially in psytrance and electronic music. It needs to be your, go-to backdrop. That's how loud the song is. If this is not as loud as you can, your song might sound either weak or, not really professional. This is how the professionals do it. They make sure that their percussion and their hat and everything, or a kick and bass is super clean and sharp, and it will make the whole song sound much better. Um, so keep those volumes quite the same. With your leads and stuff, you can have much more going up and down in volume. I mean, you should, because in a band, it's also not that the guitar is playing at the same volume the whole time. No, actually, it's a very organic thing. It goes up and down. The more you do this skillfully, the more realistic it will sound. So, very crucial. Now, going kind of wandering off of the topic of the kick. Let's go back. So here we have it. We have the pitch and then the amplitude. I'm going to copy this, duplicate, and we're going to start over.